Herkese merhaba. Program İngilizce olacağı için İngilizce yapacağım takdimi. Hello everybody. It's a great pleasure and honor to have Professor Sari Hanafi here with us in Istanbul. Professor Hanafi studied civil engineering and sociology at the University of Damascus in Syria. Later on, he did his master's in the University of Strasbourg and then went on to do his PhD in Paris, France, in School of Advanced Studies in Social Sciences. Don't expect me to pronounce that in French. So, anyway.
Where is Neufleur-Gaulet now currently is there?
Yep. And in his dissertation, he studied engineers and their role in the modernization process in Syria. Professor Hanafi is currently the president of International Sociological Association, and he also served in various platforms, international and national, to do professional service. Today he'll be presenting a talk titled "The Critique of Development Approaches, Indicators of Otherness and the Possibility of the Good Life." And we are delighted to have you here, and Professor, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Yunus. Thank you, Lutfi, for inviting me.
Oh, by the way, thank you. I want to thank you, İLKE and Professor Dr. Lütfü Sınar, for making this happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So, me too. I would like to thank the foundation for inviting me. So, it's really work on progress, so don't take it so much seriously. I would like to show how indexes developed in the last half century and which trend, and specifically look to three things today. That first, how is important something we study to self, so the individual, for the individual, imbalance with important to society. So, so this is my first issue. I will deal with each survey. I will talk about our index, about the measurability, and about the mode of analysis. I will explain one by one. Yeah. So we, of course, as you know, indexes started by mainly looking to GDP or GNP, and then, of course, with the Amartya Sen contribution to UNDP, United Nations Development Program, it was the idea of a human development index and the capability to look to the capability things. And of course, in 2007, it was a blew up of all economicist indicators about with a conference called Beyond GDP. It was established by organized by European Commission, European Parliament, Club of Rome, OECD, and World WWF. And of course, it was from this conference, it was a big report published 2 years later by the Nobel Prize Stiglitz and Sen, another Nobel Prize, and Fetus. I mean, they say we need to go absolutely beyond the economist approach. And of course, I am selecting some indexes to talk about them for a specific purpose you will see later on. And of course, we go to knowledge economy index. It was really the keyword for World Bank is a panacea for our society. We should go to knowledge economy if we want prosperity in our country. And then, of course, knowledge economy opened the floor for innovation and competitiveness index. This is each index. I mean, you have it in many, many years. I mean, this is really where it was, and authoritative reports very much used. I mean, in my book, Knowledge Production in the Arab World, I talk a lot about these indexes and how much they were influence. So, and then I think I would say that in the last few years, we are really in the age of pluralism. And I will explain later on why, how the impact this in our vision of what is a social development we want. So, age of pluralism, it means that we factor in choices, emotions, attention, motivation, character, diet, sleep, exercise, work-life patterns, relationship and nature, and so on. So, sorry. Let me see what I wrote here. No, it's not important. Okay, so let me go to book I published with my colleague Rigas Arvanitis about knowledge production in the Arab world and possible promise, where we work all the data of what is knowledge economy, and we try to understand the Arab world, whether the Arab world entered knowledge economy. And of course, when we talk about knowledge economy, we talk about innovation, research, R&D, and so on. So we wanted to look to this. So, of course, World Bank was a pioneer of creating index for knowledge society and innovation and competitive approach. So, what I wanted to show here, that in fact, you have, I cannot see what, oh yeah, I can see from here. A global innovative index, you have different indicators, but we found a lot of problem with ICT, for instance. How you interpret the ICT indicators, how you interpret, how become important people having mobile is indicators of innovation and knowledge society, for instance. So if you like, it's true that a global innovation index, for instance, created by World Bank, it's complex because it has about institution, human capital and research, infrastructure, market sophistication, business sophistication, and quickly you notice that it's really related to economic liberalization. So in fact, there is no so to rank knowledge economy in countries, you need to factor in how much they have. They are market oriented, how about business and things like that. And of course, you have so you have innovation input and innovation and other set on knowledge and technology input and creative input and things like that. So knowledge index is have almost the same thing. Here we see this capitalist bias. Is the more a country is open for trade, the more it is in knowledge economy index. Okay, and of course, some of the indicators, as I said, can be really problematic. ICT index about use of telephone, computer, and internet use, where quickly, for instance, make this kind of indicators make quickly United Arab Emirates and Bahrain is a champion of knowledge economy index. In these two countries, where I remember I was finalizing a proposal with a deadline, and I was in Abu Dhabi, and most of the website I wanted to see was blocked by the proxy. So it's so look how these countries are. The first few countries is the 5 countries is the Gulf countries, okay, and in fact, thank you, and in fact, you should go to see a serious country like Morocco, where I think in research and innovation level, it's almost the best countries that it's really lag behind as a knowledge economy index. And funny enough about the ICT, that 1 year before the uprising, Tunisia was ranked the best ICT country in the Arab world. And just to tell you that there's absolutely no way to see any newspapers outside of Tunisia if you are in Tunisia. It's all are blocked. So again, it's just I will convey so far that we should. I'm not against this kind of index and exercise, but the way you will interpret it and how you weight all these indicators is really, we should be very careful. And of course, this is a table produced by the World Bank report, where they said we have countries and beginners in knowledge economy indicator and other adopters, and those who succeed the test, they are advanced. But in fact, is bringing all the country toward one index, one set of criteria. It's really very, very problematic, and I will explain in a few seconds why. For instance, if you take some of the major explanatory model that the World Bank is used about R&D, how much the country spend money compared to the GDP per capita, you find absolutely no match. So you see, absolutely have no relevance. We look to 122 indicators to understand. Now I'm talking about the Arab world. So I move now to show that, in fact, how would you understand research and innovation in the Arab world, in a region, for instance. So we took 122 indicators, and we do some modeling to see what is more relevant to explain the research system and the innovation system in a country, and we found that, in fact, there is 4 criteria about the system, about research system and innovation system, that that are important to explain two main factors. So we did the factor analysis about the size of the research and the dynamics of the research. So size of the research, we have some indicators, how many researchers per capita, how many expenditure, input about publication input and things like that, and the dynamic where we took into account other factors, including political factors and things like that. So my message, so after my message here, that in fact, index is about how you create clusters. You cannot, I mean, comparing Qatar with Egypt has absolutely nonsensical, because Qatar produce GDP per capita, the R&D expenditure by GDP is a huge, is a huge, and the publication, if you look to the publication, you find the cost of the paper. So you divide it by number of the publication by Web of Science and Scopus website, database. You find the cost is something like, if my memory good, $70,000 per paper, while in Egypt is $250 per paper. So it's not the same means. It's not the same. So the first message, if you have index, you need to create clusters, and you work within the clusters. And working within the clusters, for instance, here we saw that we can talk about Tunisia, Jordan, and Lebanon. They have similar semi-centralized research system where the size is similar, where dynamics is similar. And then you try to explain the research, explain what happened there, and not explain, describe what happened then, and have a model, explicative model. And this is the same. This is all this is a kind of introduction to say any work on a human development report, social development report, etc., has meaning only when you take this data and you cluster, you create a model and you do clusters. And by doing this, you can factor in culture, which is really important. Culture, religion, religiosity, or other things. I mean, you can cluster authoritarian state and semi-authoritarian state, democratic state, populist state, and then you will find many. Then comparability has. You can do a sound comparability. This is what I'm trying to say. So again, you don't take knowledge economy index and seriously. You don't take index about research and innovation seriously without always asking two questions: knowledge for whom and knowledge for what? Because knowledge for whom, you can always have, if you like, an excellent indicators in publication in a database where it's measurable. Web of Science Scopus. Now we have more popularized Google Scholar, but I'm sure 90% of the publication in Turkish language in Turkey, you don't find it there. So knowledge for whom? I mean, if you produce for if you like, for international community, is visible. But what about local community? This is why, for instance, I have a paper which was translated into 8 languages because it became popular. It's called Publish Globally and Perish Locally versus Publish Locally and Perish Globally. So I found really 2 forms of academia in the Arab world, and they don't talk with each other. Absolutely. And later on, when I did the book, I identify a third profile of researcher. I call them perish locally and globally. Those who only teach. And of course, no impact in society, no even a blog, no newsletter, no op-ed, piece, opinion piece in the newsletter, etc. And knowledge for what? Is it knowledge really to be inside of a small cycle? Is it to influence policy maker? Is it to make awareness to public? Okay, so this kind of questions you can ask, and each, if you ask these 2 questions, and this is 2 questions asked by Michael Barawi before me. He was before me president of ISA, and I apply his model to South Africa, and I found this is a lot of work of CV analysis. By the way, it looks like 5 minutes. It's something like 2 months work on this. So the professional research only published for peer communities, the academics, and then whether there is a policy movement and whether you have a public movement. Okay, so when I study this in the Arab East, Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, and Jordan and Iraq, I found because social research is so much funded from outside and from international organization, become so much policy oriented research and not professional. It's not, you don't have people really do research in a field and develop, and so it's problematic. And for instance, the public research, it's small, as you say, but what is very interesting is not very connected like in South Africa, sorry. In South Africa is very connected. You start by doing academic research, and then academic research, and then you have a policy movement and public movement. While in fact, when I analyze op-eds, editorial pieces in the newspapers in the Arab world and specifically in Lebanon, I found most of those who write are either journalists or a category is called political analyst or writer or thinker, but they have absolutely no, it's not research-based paper. You don't have those who are doing research and then deliver something for the large public. Just to comparison, I analyzed Le Monde and Libération, 2 newspapers in France. You have 96% of the op-eds in my sample, okay, is written by researcher, either in CNRS, in the French Research Center, or they are professors. So you see, it's a completely different dynamics of how people get to construct their opinion about specific things. Why I bring this? Just to say that, yes, you can start by looking to research index, research and innovation index, but you need to do this homework. If you don't do this homework, your use of this index is really have a little analytical leverage, if you like. So always it's interesting. I am not making fun of using indexes, but you need to complement this with this kind of case study. And so, if you like, when I did this case studies, I mean, it was very clear that in fact the whole logic of a research and innovation index is individualism as an avatar of the neoliberalism. I mean, paying so much attention, sorry, to individual researcher. For instance, there is no indicators in this index, a world index. There is no indicators of research team. There is indication of the individual input on research. So, and I show this the conclusion that we do a lot of a prize where we celebrate individual researcher. So this is a kind of prizes for this. And then celebrating the best university, it's continue on this logic where you compare Harvard to Al-Azhar, okay? Or you compare a university focusing on ilahiyat, where they're supposed to talk with Friday sermon preachers and etc. You compare it with a university where they have their importance field, let's say medicine and engineering. So much you have so much distortion with this kind of indexes of higher education institutions, and unfortunately, I see the discussion of people. For instance, say, I mean, wealthy Lebanese families say, yeah, professor, I would like to go to rank the first 20 universities in the United States and things like that. It's too pity, this kind of logic, instead of looking to ecology of university instead of hierarchy of university. Ecology, it means how a university fit with its environment, where I expect from each university has a specific indicators in addition of this global indicator, if you like. So again, if you look my work about the Arab region, when I look to the U.S. News ranking, which is like Shanghai ranking and the British one, I forgot it. It's Times ranking. You find so much funny indicators, funny, huh? Absolutely. For instance, the best 5 universities in the Arab world: King Saud University, King Abdulaziz University. No questions whether this university it's in a democratic place or an authoritarian place. This is why I called sometimes when I work on Qatar, for instance, I talk about parachuting university. You bring Harvard, Yale, etc. in a place where absolutely no connection. So, Cairo University become the 4th, my university the 5th. Now, what is really terribly funny is in social science and the humanities to find a university in the Gulf, because this is really where the repression of social research is so terrible. So you cannot expect that they are, unless you take this artificial ranking things. Look who publish in English in a journals where you have Web of Science and Scopus, or those what we call shadow professor. So they are paid just to put the name of the university when they publish. This is a big phenomenon in some Gulfian country. Now, so if you like, only this. So far, what I'm trying to convey, to say, look, indexes. There is always. And I forgot to. Just I need one word to talk about this. When I look to rule of law, how they identify the rule of law and regulatory quality, I found this expert opinion. So I got the raw data for this index, and I found if you like, a country, let's say like Saudi Arabia, where the main economic activities is what? Is trading. So they often see the state in a positive way because the state didn't interfere. When I look to the expert opinion of Tunisia, it's always very bad. And don't tell me that the rule of law in Tunisia is worse than in Saudi Arabia. But the expert opinion about the rule of law is based on the expert, where they see that the state didn't invest in R&D, didn't invest. So here really there is an issue. Always you should, when you analyze an index, you need to look what are the subjective questions and what are the objective questions. And not necessarily always the subjective is less important than the objective, or the objective are more objective than the subjective. But at least you need to pay attention about this. This is what I'm trying to say. Now, I will go to another type of index. As I said, we live we have the emotion turn world now, or modernity. Emotion is very important. There is an idea that all these objective indicators, health, income, education, is not sufficient to bring happiness. So instead, we social scientists, we patronize people and say, we know what makes you happy, so we say, let's ask people about happiness. And with all the caveat that is a very subjective survey, if you like. We ask people. So if you like, if you look to the word happiness index, it's happiness in the meaning of subjective well-being, if you like. So you find mainly two sets of indicators. One, cognitive, about life evaluation. You ask people about how much they were happy last day or last year. I will explain in a few seconds how much they are satisfied about their emotion. Okay, no, this is a cognitive. The affective is about the positive effect. So here where emotion will enter. So let me, for instance, to look to this recent report, look to understand why it is important to look to the happiness. I will bring some result from the last report. So first of all, you will see that analyzing books published from 1995 until 2019, you find that the going up word is happiness compared to GDP and GNA. This is the red one, okay? And income is really going down. So there is a kind of consensus in academic community that income doesn't explain well-being of people. Life satisfaction, you see going up a little bit, subjective well-being also going up. In the right side graph, we see how much the report in World Happiness Report is cited. So more and more we see it cited. It means it was taking into account compared to GPI or beyond GDP or simply economic of happiness. Also, the paper about published related to happiness, you see that that is increased from 1985 until 2022 until 2020, and the most important production is in psychology. So it's a domain of psychology. This is the red one. The orange one is happiness in economics also, and in all field is the blue one, and the fraction of publication is not in the column, if you like. So just to understand. So it was taken how many publications. So if you like, there is almost 0.1% of publication in old published paper where they talk about happiness. Okay. And who published these papers? So it's clear that historically in the global north, where if you like, the center of knowledge production, and slowly it become very important. Look how it's important. The first countries beyond the global Western countries, including Australia, is the Latin America. Latin America started and other area in China, etc. And now it's most of the world, except in Africa, they publish something in happiness. Now, look, who are the countries the most happy? In fact, first of all, they are really coincide by GDP per capita. So still clear that there is a many study on this. I mean, not based on world, etc. I mean, the most important is show that once the people are once the people are middle class, here where GDP per capita is not important, but if you are not middle class, GDP is really important about, or not middle class, but subsidize your basic need, if you like. You have an apartment, you have basic food every day, you are, So this is one of the indicators. So, and then I will comment the 9 happy countries Israel, and I will comment it in a few minutes. So as you see, it's really mostly all these countries are from the global north, generally speaking. Okay, I wanted to publish the. Sorry, I made a mistake. About the worst, the least happy countries, the 20. Most of them, if you remove the Gulf states, by the way, United Arab Emirates should be here, it's here. No, it's a little bit farther. So it's among the happy countries. If you remove the Arab countries, the Gulf countries, all the Middle East countries are among the worst happy countries. Okay? By the way, Turkey is closer to this, the last 20, by the way. But Palestine, Syria, and if you look to the trend of Middle Eastern countries are not happy countries. So let's discuss this later on. But just I will show you what kind of data this report produces. So if you look to questions, so you have questions about self. So as I told you, I will look to the self versus society. I will look to the measurability, and I will look the way we analyze this. So self versus society, we find three types of indicators: objective list, basic human needs and rights. Someone cannot be happy unless they have sufficient financial resources. Not extremely poor. So this is so you have many indicators which got this result, if you like. The other type of indicators is the preference satisfaction. So allow individual to decide for themselves what make them happy. So this is the importance of this index. That you ask people whether you are satisfied in your life or not. You don't decide as a sociologist that health and education, for instance, this is the most important. And there is some questions about reasonable versus informed preferences. Okay, so I will come to that in a few seconds. And there is other type of questions about mental states, where you ask people what make you about the most pleasure or the less pain in your life. Okay. Now, if I come to the measurability, you have some problems. If you like. The first is, so you can see three types of metrics in this World Happiness Index. Evaluative metrics, hedonistic metrics, and eudaimoc metrics. So for evaluative metrics, the major question asked, are you happy with your life as a whole? In the last version, it was asked whether you are happy the last day, how much you were happy the last day, because they thought that memory is of people short. It's better to ask them about yesterday instead of asking them the whole year. When participants say that they are 8 out of 10 happy with their lives, then it is not possible to say that they are twice as happy as someone who answered that they are 4 out of 10 happy. This is a problem. So when you ask, most of the question is with the ladder from 0 to 10. So you don't do interpersonal analysis with this kind of methodology, and of course rely too much on people's memory. So this is the problem of evaluative metrics. For hedonistic metrics, so assess individual affective states and how a variety of conditions and activity affect them. What is new in historically, it was some Eurocentric design of the survey where you look only to enjoyment, for instance. So this is what we call it in psychology, a high arousal form of emotion, how much you are excited. We don't ask about low arousal form cognitive evaluation, like experience of balance, how much your life is balanced between work and family, for instance, balance between different things, balance and harmony. And it was no questions about low arousal positive emotions like calmness and tranquility, or about more complex terms like peace as both cognitive and affective dimensions. In this World Happiness Index, there is almost really nothing about how much individuals have meaning and purpose in their life. There is an indirect way, but I think this is something we're still missing in many surveys. And maybe we cannot capture it with the surveys. We need to go with other methodology. Ethnography, in-depth interviews, other things. But this is, I think, is extremely important if we want to capture the emotion of people and their state of happiness. The other problem of many research on happiness is really that a lot of work done on what we called weird, Western, educated, industrialized, so living in the city, rich and democratic place. So much of the research done among students in universities in the northern country. And this is where some statistics I didn't. This is paper on progress. The paper, a lot of reference. I don't put the reference here because I was in a hurry to finish my PowerPoint. 96% of the participants in studies in top psychological journals were from Western industrialized countries, even though these are home to only 12% of the world population. So really there is a big problem of bias how this survey has been designed and with which sample has been used. So this is why in the last survey of World Happiness Index, there is 9 new item was introduced thanks to collaboration with a Japanese foundation. So they make a workshop with a Japanese scholar to capture some of the values that is specifically in South Asia. It's very, very, very important, for instance, the value they added, the questions, the items they added on balance, harmony, that they realize only in this version of happiness index that balance and harmony matter to people's happiness worldwide, not only in South Asia or in Islamic world. And what is very important that balance and harmony variable have high significant linkage to life evaluation and to different degree if we take balance, harmony versus other like peace. And it's interesting that balance, harmony are dynamics at the heart of well-being. So can be explained other indicators. If you take a single questions like life in balance, so you ask people about whether you feel life has you balance between important things, the top countries you find you still have this Nordic countries clearly. In the bottom, you find the impact of poverty in Africa countries mainly. And of course, Lebanon. We are a poor country since last 2-3 years, which is, we still, I mean, I have a very negative attitude about my country, so I don't want to disclose it.
We are getting there too.
Yeah. What is important is calmness. You see in calmness that the picture is much more complex, and we have less Eurocentric. So you have Vietnam, Jamaica, Kyrgyzstan, among the top people feel calmness. And in the bottom, against Middle Eastern countries like Pakistan, Iran, and other countries. And it's very interesting, Israel is among the worst on calmness. Again, I will comment this later on. I am Palestinian, I should comment on Israel. So it's a time or I take my revenge. I cannot take arm, but I can do this. General result, taking those data, the balance, the calm, the peace, I'm talking about this non-Eurocentric new items they introduce to happiness. When explain life, so taking those data into account when explaining life evaluations doesn't materially change the relative importance of other variables and doesn't change the relative predicted ranking and hence the average residuals in East Asia and hence the average residuals in East Asia and Northern countries. Why? Because even if the culture of South Asia is to celebrate balance, if you are forced to work so many hours, so it becomes the other factors will force you. If you live in a country where, in a region where the war every few years, this is absolutely will not bring neither peace, sense in your life, neither balance, etc. So this why I put this, because it's very important that this show this against the culturalist approach. To say systematically, we Muslim, we, if you like, the whole, my work is against religious congruence, for instance. Believe me, the more you are religious, the more you, I mean, always there is a gap between belief and behavior. And you need social scientists to investigate this gap and to explain it. Okay, so in authoritarian countries, definitely we are all hypocrites to survive. So we become like, yeah. So I think, and I like the result of the last survey of happiness to, if you like, to break all this kind of systematic culturalist analysis. And to show that, no, I mean, you need to cross the effect of culture, religion, with the other factors of the political, the social, the economic, okay? And this is why I use, for instance, when I wrote about religious congruence, I talk about practical secularization from below that influence so much the religious congruence. Again, I will not enter here. It's very interesting to see that in the general result of the happiness index, that Latin America still, the family, for instance, is very important. Still have means life evaluation that are significantly higher, and it's explained by the effect of the family. the same now. Now I will move to the mode of analysis of if you are interested in the happiness, okay? And in fact, someone like me, I am interested in the good life, if you like, in Aristotelian meaning. What is a good life? So how I would, if I am interested, if anyone like me interested in what is a good life for us, should take this data and ask always two questions. The first question is, happiness for whom? Who left behind? So what's the meaning of the nice country of happy Israel is almost 40% of population are under occupation. So what's the meaning of being happy as an individual where we're surrounded by all this problem? So really there is again, I would say individualistic bias approach in happiness index. And then you should ask, happiness for what? And then I think here I will use heavily the work of a dear friend and sociologist, Eva Illouz. She is a French-Israeli sociologist. First of all, if we reduce freedom to choice in our late modernity, is very terrible. Because we have all the choice and we end up by chance, Yunus and me and Lutfi and Mahmoud, they dress the same thing. And maybe if we look here, we'll find the same, we bought it in the same shop. But I am from Beirut and you bought it from Istanbul. Okay, but the same shop. Zara or I don't know what, or etc. So I think there is we need to understand that in fact there is so much illusion in our late modernity with the capitalist with the capitalism, with neoliberalism that made illusion of happiness and choices, truth choices. But in fact, truth choices, but you are always oriented to one choice. So here where in fact, whether we need to qualify happiness, whether you have informed informed preferences, or really a forced preferences, if I would say. And I think the work of Eva in emotional capitalism and the commodification of emotion is very important. How the love was so much commodified. And then it's really utopia of happiness is in a full interaction with utopia of consumption. In the domain she studied, love and psychological health constitute utopias of happiness for the modern self, that both are mediated through consumption and that both constitute horizon to which the modern self aspires. So it means that we need really to qualify what the meaning of happiness and how and we have a discussion before entering here about, for instance, how Anthony Giddens, in his work, in his book about intimate relationship, I think the title of the book, I read it many years ago, where he celebrates the separation between family, where you reproduction health there, love, and sexuality. So you can have a wife and kids, but you love another woman, and you make love with another woman, and you keep changing. So he was very celebratory of this kind of life, and of course it creates illusion of happiness, because the later work showed that this is a very problematic for the society, and the breaking of the family has a lot of consequences on many things. Child education, about criminality, about so what happiness is it? So in individual terms, maybe some people are happy, but what is the meaning for other categories? All this, we should ask this kind of questions. Again, I'm not trying to put an answer to happiness for what, but just to give you examples how you will work a survey like this one.
Professor Hanafi, we are slowly running out of time.
Okay, I finish.
So, yeah, oh, okay. Now
yeah,
all right.
I finish
So we'll have enough
by
time
saying,
for questions.
I didn't, absolutely. My conclusion, better addressing eudaimonic measurement, we need to say what is a good life for the individual, and of course, if you like normatively, I like the Paul Ricoeur formula, the aim of a good life with and for the other in just institutions. But again, this is in my scholarship, I distinguish between the descriptive, how I describe my society, and how myself I push my society toward this. So here I behave like Friday sermon preacher, okay? And how to move from thinking only about love to think about social love. How much there is a gift exchange inside of the society. How I love my neighbor, how I love the refugees, I help, etc. And of course, you have a whole movement of convivialists. You can go and see Convivialist Manifesto. Is composed by many sociologists. I'm part of them, but who we try to really to think, to remind humanity about the Maussian, Marcel Mauss gift as foundational gift economy, if you like, as a foundational anthropological sense of the social relationship. If we don't remind people this, they will become less gift. If we don't highlight in our work niches where there is a gift, the niches of gift will become less and less. If you focus on talking about Syrian refugee in Turkey in terms of early marriage, polygamy, and etc., you will see them more and more. You create a problem. So this is what I'm trying. If you try to balance, to show, to see that Syrian refugees also they have some impact in economic, positive impact in economic in Turkey, this will change the image of the public about Syrian refugees. So it's very important, our research, how our normativity will influence our society. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, let's open the floor. questions? Any questions, comments?
Criticism?
Please, yeah.
So I have an observation and a question.
Okay, I'll come back to you later.
Yeah. So, as a student of economics, I could sense a relation between what the talk was about. I could relate it with the debate of normative versus positive. Like what it should be and what it is. In economics, what we basically, there are two paradigms in economics. One is positive and normative. And in positive economics, what we tend to do is we try to quantify things. We measure them. And then we try to make some comparison, what is worse off, what is best off. And in all this scheme, in the contemporary scenario, what we see is there is a lot of, these indicators are developed, be it this World Happiness Index, Innovation Index, and this all comes from the, neoliberal thought process. And normative question is always about, ethical part of it. So I could make sense of that, but the question that I have very precisely I would want to ask you is that, first of all, when we look at the positive aspect that, we tend to measure things that may not always be measurable, it basically what it tries is that it tries to unify different societies and with different experiences and with different historical backgrounds. It tries to unify them and tries to provide a singular line in which everything is measured on the same terms, be it, like you said, be it in Egypt or be it in America or be it in Qatar. But the indicator is already provided to us by some other people who don't have any, actual understanding of the society we are trying to research on. So the question to you, Professor, would be, but then in this scenario of dichotomy that we want to do a meaningful research for any particular society that may not be, exactly a replica of what the traditional North-centric model tells us. In this scenario, how do we reconcile with the question itself, the question of knowledge production itself? How do we reconcile it how do we reconcile this with this question that how do we produce knowledge that is relevant, that is socially relevant, rather than that tries to provide us with a Eurocentric approach that, okay, these are the indicators and then you say Qatar is better off as compared to Egypt. How do we reconcile with this thing that we produce knowledge that is not from the top-bottom approach, but that is socially relevant? How do we reconcile with this fact? That's the question. Thank you.
Let's go ahead. Yeah.
No.
Oh, so
if you could,
yeah. Okay.
Otherwise, I am talkative, and you will.
Oh, okay. All right.
Thank you for your presentation. My question is also related with our peer. As you have mentioned about the happiness index, there are some indicators that are added with collaboration with Japanese researchers. Then we start to see East Asian countries in top rankings of happiness index. Okay, so it's interesting that when we collaborate with an East Asian country, they start to impose or add their own cultural values to calculate the happiness. Okay, so this study could be done with other cultures as well. Like they can also study with a researcher group from Middle East. So they will also add some indicators that are relevant to their culture. And maybe we can see also some Middle Eastern countries in top rankings. So, my question is that when we change our indicators, all these rankings change, and also in countries and in regions, there are also different measurements and different cultures. Like in the east of Turkey and west of Turkey, there are different cultural norms and beliefs, etc. We cannot calculate exactly or in a, how can I say, in a persuasive way.
Yeah, it's clear what you say.
It's
Yeah.
clear. So, what do you think about this?
Yeah. Okay.
About indexes, how should we use them, or how should we?
Clear. Your question is clear. Yeah.
How we may legitimize the indicators?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Or commands or the
Yeah.
indexes.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Here, then I'll go come down.
Arkamda da birileri var.
Ha öyle mi? Orayı unutuyorum, evet.
Prof, I mean, actually, let me say at the outset that the question is not because, there was any niche left, but just to tell that, we were carefully listening to you. So, my question is regarding the knowledge economic indexes, specifically the incentive institution regime index that you pointed, and you said there is a capitalist bias. When you specifically talk about the non-tariff barriers in that.
Yeah.
But in my view, in my humble opinion, it may not be a bias. Reason being that, when we see some of the growth models, actually there is a transition or flow of knowledge with lesser, barriers, trade barriers. So that flow is not only in the accumulation of capital and labor, it is also in the flow of in knowledge. So there is a transition of knowledge as well between countries, I think.
Thank you. Over there, yes. Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, professors and the audience. I'm really happy to attend such kind of seminars. I come from Istanbul University. I'm a PhD student in the Department of Sociology. And I'm really happy by attending these seminars because the issue of knowledge economy index is very important because such a traditional development models are outdated. For this reason, we need to basically adapt and see how the world is going on because we have to balance both the local as well as the global scenarios. However, my question is that, dear Professor, while we were talking about this index, where is indigenous knowledge? I mean, for example,
Where is what?
Indigenous knowledge. Indigenous knowledge means, for example, I may find a religious father or elder who didn't attend class, who didn't attend schools, or who is not certified. But that elder may has a lots of knowledge, lots of skills and experiences, right? So we need to sometimes consider their experiences and the knowledge, right? So in order to balance the issue of local and the global, to what extent we can match the mismatching the behaviors of these local and the global issues. This is one. Second, while World Bank and IMF are actually drafting or making policies, do they really depend on the researches which is conducted in low-income countries, or they are simply discussing in the office and they are just drafting their policies so as to imposing their policies based upon just a kind of foreign, in terms of foreign direct investment or some kinds of money assistances. So, do really they are conducting the field research? As you said, basically, it could be ethnographic research, it could be any other qualitative or quantitative research. This is really my concern. Another important point, the issue of the size and the dynamics of research publications. That is really very important and impressive. Thank you very much, dear Professor.
Yes, thank you.
In the countries, particularly in the Gulf countries, where there are actually high expatriate staffs and research qualities, low research quality, I don't know to what extent the United Arab Emirates and the Bahrain actually got such kind of rankings. It has to be questioned, in my understanding. Basically, I don't have many questions. Let me give an opportunity for others to be communicated personally. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
First of all, it's a great honor to welcome you here, and thanks to Professor Sunar as well. My question is that shouldn't class stratification keep in mind that when we are selecting or defining our indicators, when we are looking for happiness? Because mobility in the classes is also important for
the cluster to be before we define the indicators. This is what you say?
The simple way to say that is for a homeless person, just a plain house can define happiness, but for riches, that cannot define anything about happiness. And I just want to say that this research is maybe more separate for the classes, more specialized for each classes.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay, clear, clear. Thank you. Good, very good questions. Yeah.
Okay, any more questions? Okay, maybe
Yeah.
I have a question, or maybe an observation first. Like, I mean, all these indices are created kind of in the West, but they're the ones who care less about these, you know. We are like institutions, individuals, that's my observation. Institutions, individuals, or even at the country level, it seems like we care more about these indices, how much, where are we ranked in these indices. Like universities in the US do not really care about that much the indices, but universities in Africa, in Turkey, in Middle East, all over in Asia, they really care. If they jump like 2 points, that's a good year for them. So yeah, so I don't know if you share this observation. So why do we?
You are talking about university ranking or
university
or
rankings,
other
or even like gender equality rankings. Oh, we did better this year.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
yeah.
Or like I say, development rankings, things like that. Even at the country, if you look at the public debate, we went down 3 points. Okay, things are going bad. We went up 5 points. We are doing better. So in that sense, it seems like, or it seems to me, we care as like individuals, as institutions, or as countries outside the West. We care more about these indices than the Westerners themselves. So I don't know if you shared that observation. If yes, why would that be? So maybe that's my question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, it's I mean, I would defend. Let me start by saying I am universalist. Okay, I will shock many of people, but I will say it to shock you first. I think there is no science without universalism. Okay, and then having said that, you need to qualify. So I use the word soft universalism, where I have a lot of conditions to, where a concept become a universal. I mean, it means that it should be discussed in a different area, not in the global north. It should know Tilio. It means that Tilio change. Democracy today is a universal concept, but humanity may find later on better governing system. So, but I mean, it's a sociological workable things. Humanity. I mean, there is a development of a humanity concept of things, and I think each of the indexes I talk about have some biases and some methodological flaw somewhere, and worse is a flawed in analysis and how it has been used and abused. Okay, and absolutely what Yunus highlight is the abuse side. Okay, and this is why, for instance, a country like United Arab Emirates, where it's ranked in the worst country of authoritarianism, has a Ministry of Happiness. Okay, so it's a public PR relationship to say, I mean, we care so much about the happiness. Okay, not those who are in the prison specifically belong to a specific political thought, but I mean the the 500,000, they are 500,000 Emirati or 1 million, I think. Yeah, I mean, they are those who are not in the prison. They are happy, even if the domestic worker or the 9 million there in United Arab Emirates, they are unhappy. So what I'm trying to say that so far that we need this kind of data. It's really very important. Okay, to use the utility of this of this. For instance, many countries will fund. They channel their funding according to this kind of indicators. I know very well. I have a book called The Emergence of a Globalized Elite, Donors, International Organizations, and Local NGOs. So I look too much about this nexus of funding. And it's clear a country with a GDP with a certain threshold is eligible for aid from Finland, from France, from less than unemployment. I mean, funding the development. I mean, unemployment. So all these indicators are important. What I do, for instance, when I did a survey, the last survey I designed for Palestinians in Lebanon, to understand the socio-economic situation of the Palestinians of Lebanon, I have two definitions of unemployment. One is according to office labor office ILO definition, because I wanted really to give the international organization something for them comparable, and I did one. So the questions become two sets of questions, and one really which have sense for a population where they change employment so much. For instance, it's a very informal economy, while the definition of ILO is fit really with the formal economy. So you need to play the game because it's really important, and you empower people by giving this international decision maker something comparable. So I take these indexes seriously, but we need to really qualify our analysis, qualify figures, and you need to really to make an analysis where you take into account this, if you like, you take into account. Not only this figure, but you triangulate with other data. So this is as simple as that. I mean, if I have a recipe, is you need always to triangulate analysis of these indexes with another research method. Yeah, I mean, the question you raise. Yeah, I forgot. I think I reply. I reply to questions. So really, my message. Take seriously these indexes while paying attention about the methodology, etc. But you need really to be careful about the analysis. Yeah, I mean this is I think I cover everything, generally speaking. Yeah, I don't know how much I cover, but
thank you. Right, if there are no other questions, then we are running a little bit over time. Again, I want to thank you, Professor Hanafi, and also Professor Sunar and İLKE. And thank you everybody for joining us tonight. And hopefully we'll have you again maybe in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Universe. Thank you.